is Andrew Mikkelsen back at Studio B. Andrew, welcome back to the show.
Sorry, Jan. It's them, not me.
The pride of Canby, Oregon. Canby is like a small town south of where my wife's from. I hang out in Canby all the time. It's a great place.
It's a great place. Yeah.
It's awesome, man.
Well, we're going to start with just a loaded question here. Okay, and I know you've got an affinity for Pat McAfee because he's a former kicker, but he's been watching what you're doing in MMA, and you've been on his show before.
Yeah.
You've been on our show, too. We've invited you back multiple times, Andrew.
Two equal things.
Yeah.
So which show has the better karma? Is it Pat McAfee's setup, or is it BYU Sports Nation?
I mean, I've had more appearances on BYU Sports Nation, and the wins keep coming, so I think this is something that's given me the right juju for the cage.
Okay.
And it was pretty cool to have you on the Pat McAfee show.
It was fun.
And for the brand, you know, you got the
For
shirt.
the brand, it was cool.
Yeah.
And he's been sponsoring the fights too, so
That's awesome.
We hit him up every time we get in there and coordinate with his guys to wear their logo on the fight trunks.
Oh, sweet. So he's still involved.
I mean, I wouldn't go so far to say that he's still involved, but guys from his team are still involved. I still talk to those guys over there every time I fight. So
super cool. Well, he's got a couple of ties to BYU, and I know he kind of defaults to Kyle Van Noy sometimes when he's looking for clarification on things, but I think you need to be in the mix in this too.
I guess, yeah. when I was on, he was talking about Austin Collie too, their time together at the Colts.
Yeah.
He's got respect. He's got respect
some
for the
ties.
BYU guys.
He knows BYU's coming for his West Virginia Mountaineers too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
In November. Let's go.
Let's
Do
go.
you have a year of eligibility, by the way, just in case?
We could talk
Can we figure that out?
we could talk to the eligibility guys and dig something up.
Got a COVID year?
I'm not sure earning money as a professional fighter is going to clear NCAA compliance.
NIL, whatever.
It's a different sport.
It's a different
doesn't
sport.
count.
Okay, so you have a fight Friday.
Yeah.
Who are you fighting? Where are you fighting?
Fighting at the Maverick Center, fighting against a guy out of Las Vegas. So it'll be fun. This is a title fight, and unfortunately, you try and typically have the opponent and all of the negotiations locked down further in advance, but we've been through a couple of different opponents that have had to withdraw for various reasons, and so this is a new opponent, don't know much about him, just signed the contract to fight him like less than 2 weeks ago. So it'll be interesting seeing how it goes. He's a really good jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's a jiu-jitsu coach at a gym down in Las Vegas. So high-level submission guy. So my goal, not to spoil the game plan, but my goal is to try and avoid that and try and keep things on the feet and see what I can do with.
I don't think you're spoiling anything by saying, "Hey, I don't want to
not
go into submission."
I'm not spoiling anything. That's why I divulged. Yeah. No, that's pretty clearly the game plan from our side. So.
Yeah.
Now, last time you were in Studio B, we were talking about your transition from, just kind of like a hobby and fun fights, if you will, into like where you're actually becoming a professional fighter. You've now taken that to the next level. So what have the past few months, and even the past year, been like for you as you've made that transition more now towards a formal pro fighter?
Yeah, well, quick clarification, not to get technical, but...
Oh, let's get technical.
Well, I'm actually an amateur still. So, the typical journey from someone who's never thrown a punch before to professional fighters, you start with some amateur fights. And so I'm 5-1 in amateur fighting.
Okay.
And this title fight on Friday is for the amateur belt. And so, don't want to brag about being a pro quite yet. But yeah, this will be for the amateur 185 title for Fierce Fighting Championship at the Maverick Center in West Valley, technically. But once you kind of fight your way through the ranks and stack up a bunch of wins, you kind of get slotted for that title contention spot. And so that's where I'm at. And if I win the title, when I win the title, humbly, then kind of the next step in the progression is then to go pro. So.
Okay, so the next fight could be as a pro.
That's what we're looking at potentially. Yeah.
Is it a different sort of series of fighting, competition? Is it opponent? What makes you pro at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, you have to have a promotion that is familiar with you and has seen kind of your body of work as an amateur that's willing to now pay you for your fighting. And so I've got a good relationship with this promotion here locally and for Fierce Fighting Championship. And so that's something that we've kind of discussed, and it's kind of on the table. But definitely the level of competition takes a few steps up, right?
Sure, sure.
Guys in the amateur ranks are kind of doing it for the experience, getting that cage time. But then once you go pro, it's for real money. And there are guys that once they go pro, that record really counts, because if they want to rise through the ranks and make it to a larger promotion like the UFC, the UFC really weighs heavily on what their body of work as a professional and in the smaller local promotions has been. So it gets serious. Then guys are actually not like training part-time. You're going against guys that are like trying to make a run at this being their career. So.
All right, he is an amateur fighter, a high-level one at that, not quite a pro. Andrew Mikkelsen
We're close,
with us
though, it
on
sounds
BYU
like.
Sports Station, getting very close.
Yeah.
How's your family taking to all of this?
Depends on who you're talking to in my family. If it's any of my brothers, they're super stoked. If it's my wife, she knows that I love the game, and she kind of just supports me because she knows it makes me happy. But if I told her that I was quitting tomorrow, I don't think she'd be too bummed about it. So we'll just leave it at that. It's an ongoing conversation with her, but she's been so awesome supporting me and letting me take time and go train regularly and helping me with the weight cuts, cooking good food for me to start shedding off the LBs during the fight camp. So it's been good.
You're in the middle of that, I take it.
I'm in the middle of it right now.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm hungry. I walked past all your snacks and it just made me agitated.
I was like, what snacks?
Those aren't our snacks.
Yeah,
there's no snacks here, guys.
It's probably Studio C. And,
Yeah, it's
they
somebody
got the
else.
budget there. But I encourage people to watch your Deep Blue. They get to know kind of your story even better. One of your brothers, is he a coach? Is he work at a gym or something?
Not a coach.
Okay.
He is kind of the one that got me into fighting. So when I was in high school, he had graduated and he was actually getting ready for his mission. And what better way to prepare for preaching the gospel than to go and punch people in the face? So
And then later you do it spiritually with the Book of Mormon.
That's right. That's right. Spiritually and less spiritually, depending on some of the situations he ran into on his mission. But no, so my brother, after high school, decided to take up that new endeavor and linked up with the team out in the Portland area and got really good. And so funny enough, his first MMA fight was the night before he got set apart to leave on his mission.
Wow.
So we all went up to like Seattle at this big event center, and he went out, and luckily he took care of business quickly and got the knockout win. And then the very next morning, totally unscathed. I think his hand was a little sore, but he
No bruises, no cuts?
nothing, luckily.
That's nice.
So then he got set apart and went on his way. And then when he came home from his mission, he continued pursuing that and had a pretty good career. He doesn't do it as much anymore, but he still trains. And so just watching him and being a fan of the UFC, I was just so intrigued by the sport, but had my sights set on football. Right, and so that was more of a priority. Always was a fan of the fighting stuff, but thought maybe that's for another time. And then after a year or two of being out of the BYU football game, I was kind of getting the itch. My brother had moved out to Utah and was training, and so he just let me tag along, and then it kind of just snowballed from there to what it is today.
And you want to become pro? Is that where we're at with this?
We need to cut this so that my wife doesn't watch this part, but that's kind of the point. That's the thing.
If there were a title for today's show, it would be Punching People in the Face and Sharing the Gospel.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
That's awesome.
What's your favorite part about being in the ring?
Probably when the fight's over and my hands are in the air and I know I just won. That's probably the favorite part. Like running into Lavelle Edwards with a packed house, people screaming at the top of their lungs, and we're playing against a good opponent. Like this is a game with implications. That's such a crazy feeling. And I wouldn't say that fighting is more exhilarating than that, but it's just different, right? The setting is completely different. You're getting into a cage in your underwear, and you're trying not to get knocked out by some guy. And so you're kind of going out there and about to throw hands with somebody. It's a very interesting kind of primal feeling. But that being said, all of the pressure and the anxiety and the nerves going into that, when you land the finishing punch and you know right there as your opponent's like fall into the canvas, like it's over and I've like gotten to the top of the mountain, at least for this one, it's a crazy feeling. It's unlike any other feeling of victory that I could describe. Really, really cool though, really fun. I recommend it to anybody that, that wants to give it a go. Come train with us and we'll get you in there.
Is that the loneliest feeling you experience once you get in there? Or do you feel sort of a team aspect with other people around you? Because it is truly the original sport, which is hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, I don't know if I describe it as lonely. I mean, it is mano-a-mano, right? But you got your coaches and some of your teammates that are in your corner, and they're just right on the other side of the fence. But reality is when the adrenaline's pumping, and especially when the crowd starts getting involved, sometimes you can't even hear your corner that's screaming, and they're a distance from about me to you. Sometimes you're just zoned in, right? And it's the repetitions that you spend countless hours in the gym practicing that just kind of come out, you know, naturally in the cage, and you don't really think at that point. So
this is your 7th fight. You're 5-1 as an amateur.
Yeah.
We'll finish with this. How did the one loss make you a better fighter?
Oh man, we don't have enough time for that. Okay, so my one loss was against a guy who was a high level wrestler, state champ in high school, wrestled for the U.S. national team.
Wow.
And was one of the top ranked amateur fighters in the country, guy out of Arizona. And, you know, that was another situation where he wasn't my original opponent. I had somebody else that was kind of signed that contract and I was going to fight. And so I was expecting somebody else for most of that fight camp. And for whatever reason, he had to pull out due to injury or something. And so we found this guy as a last-minute replacement. And looking at the matchup, he had definitely the edge in experience. And when you're wrestling from the time you're in diapers, there's nothing a guy like me can do to make up that gap just in a year and a half of training, right? So, but we were up for the challenge. The guy was undefeated, had a few more fights than I had. But if there's ever a way to kind of push yourself and kind of get that measuring stick of where you are compared to the top level talent in the rest of the country, what an opportunity. So went out. It ended up being a pretty back and forth fight, to be honest. I definitely got the upper hand in the striking and landed some good damage, but he just was able to turn on that wrestling switch, and so he ended up controlling me for the majority of the fight. So where I landed more damage, he kind of controlled the pace and the, you know, where the fight was going. So it ended up being a decision, and he won 28-29. So
oh man,
yeah, lost to the judges on that one. But it was the first time I'd ever taken a fight past the first round. And so we went all 3 rounds. It was the most exhausted I've ever been in my life. And it was really cool because even though it was a loss, I felt like in many ways I got the upper hand in that matchup. And if there was ever a way to have that learning experience and have a loss, that would be kind of the ideal situation.
Okay.
Right? So against a really top talent guy, and where you don't really land much damage or absorb much damage, and you deliver a lot more damage. So
fascinating.
Yeah.
Hey, we know your fight's huge on Friday. We're going to give you a huge dose of the BYU Sports Nation karma.
Friday, Maverick Center, Andrew Mikkelsen.
Hit me up for tickets.
Let's go.
I got a ticket link. I'll send it out to people who want to come support. So
love that.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Appreciate it, guys.
Coming on.
Always great connecting and chatting, fighting with you guys. It's fun.
Yeah.
Got it, man. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah.